Hey, how's it going, everyone? Rennick here, and I made an attempt to beat Monster Hunter World as a hardcore Nuzlocke. The rules for this challenge are: 1. If I faint, I lose the weapon I'm using. 2. I have a weapon limit that increases each rank. 3. I can't restock items except for ammo. 4. I can't repeat quests. Expeditions and investigations are fine. 5. I can't use the Guardian armor while in low rank. 6. If I fail, I must restart the rank and I regain the weapons I had in that rank. 7. No Palicos and no online help. With the rules out of the way, let's see how the challenge went. Alright, after hunting some Kestodons, Great Jagras makes an appearance and the field team leader tells me to go hunt it. Great Jagras is pretty easy to hunt as every first large monster is. We then find an upset Poki who's upset about a magma left over from Zora Magdaros. After returning from the quest, I then go to the forge and create some of the defenders' dual blades. I then make the bone chest plate. I then make my way to a new campsite in the ancient forest. As we approached the new campsite, we spotted a Kuluyaku who made his escape. The team field leader wants me to go hunt as well. Sheesh, man. I know it's my job to hunt these things, but come on, man. It fled. Just let it be. Okay, I see you were determined about this. So Kuluyaku is our next target, and just like how Great Jagras was easy to kill, Kuluyaku was an easy hunt. Poki is the next victim, as we need to get it out of the way for the researchers to analyze the giant magma piece. While fighting it, I get pushed into a corner with low health and my weapon out, and I try to block its attacks, but it overpowers me and causes me to faint, and I lose the gun lance. I then switch to the bow. I am able to do a good amount of damage to it, and a clutch claw is able to slay it. Next, I hunt Barroth. Barroth proves to be a bit of a challenge to hunt with the bow, as it loves to charge and be in your face. I shoot at the screaming wyverns to summon Diablos to damage Barroth, which little did I know, Diablos would jump right at me and cause me to faint and lose the bow. Well, at least I didn't lose my best weapon to Barroth like in my Rise run, which you should definitely check out after this video. I then switched to my dual blades. This time the fight is a lot more smooth. After a lot of slicing and dicing and pulling Attack on Titan moves, Barroth is defeated. I then make the Defender's light bowgun and Kuluyaku's leg armor. While in the Wild Spire Waste, I find a Barroth killed in a mysterious way. I go to investigate it and find a traumatized researcher. Girotodes comes in and snatches the dead Barroth. I quickly get the researcher to some safety and the hunt is on. Girotodes is pretty much a joke of a monster, and honestly, if it wasn't for the fact that the game requires you to hunt it, no one would willingly hunt this thing. Aside from the annoyance of getting in the water, the fight is pretty easy and Girotodes is taken down. Tobi-Kadachi is next and is also taken down pretty easily, unlike the one I fought in Rise. It did help that I was using the dual blades and not a great sword, allowing me to keep up with his fast movements. Next, I make the sword and shield, insect glaive, and Tobi-Kadachi's armor. Afterwards, Anjanath is the next boss monster. Anjanath proves to be more of a challenge. It's very aggressive, and not having a Palico to distract it makes it very hard to be able to heal properly. His Fire Breath's hitbox also took me by surprise, and it causes me to faint and lose the dual blades. I tried to use the light bow gun. I'm able to get some damage in, but he swings his head and knocks me down, and then dashes, and I happen to stand up and get trampled. So I grab my greatsword and do the classic attack sheath strategy, and eventually take down Anjanath. I then make a hammer. Now with Anjanath out of the way, Zora Magdaros is next. Now this fight is definitely the slower version. Nergigante shows up, and I apply the same method that I used against Anjanath. Nergigante then overpowers our squad, but the huntsman comes in to rescue us. Zora Magdaros breaks through the binding and makes a run for it, and Nergigante flees. The handler and I then travel through the Great Ravine and discover the Coral Highlands. The handler once again gets carried away with her stupid ideas, and Legiana attacks us, and we fall down to the Rotten Vale. Luckily we get rescued and we wake up in the research base. I then find a spot for a new campsite in the Coral Highlands. Up next is Palumu. This thing is honestly just a cotton ball version of Pookie Pookie, minus the poison. Eventually I slay it. Rattlebon is next and is also not much of a challenge. Legiana is the next boss monster. The fight starts off pretty smooth. However, Legiana is a very fast monster and loves to be in the air, which is annoying with the greatsword. The first area you fight it at doesn't help because of how small it is. While trying to get away, it does a tailspin attack and causes me to faint, and I lose the greatsword. With the sword and shield, I finish Legiana off. I then make the lance. We then check out another Zora Magdaros magma piece, and while investigating it, Odogaron shows up. Odogaron also puts up a fight with its quick movements, but also because it causes bleeding, which is very annoying to deal with. It gets me to low health and inflicts me with bleeding, which causes me to faint. Using the insect glaive makes the fight a bit easier, and eventually I'm able to take it down. After a lot of grinding, I made Legiana's helmet, arms, and Odogaron's waist armor. While searching for the first Wyverian, we encounter Rathalos, who is not happy that we came into his nest unannounced. Rathalos then attacks us. I get the handler to safety, and we find the first Wyverian. He gives us a test to prove ourselves to receive an answer about where Zora Magdaros is going. The test involves hunting Rathalos and a Diablos. After running around the whole map trying to get to Rathalos, I eventually find it and start beating it up. The insect glaive helps a lot with allowing me to hit it in the air and mount it multiple times. Rathalos isn't very difficult, just a basic Rathalos. Diablos is next and proves to be more of a menace. I start off with the insect glaive, but I should have started with the hammer. During the fight I got reckless and got uppercutted by it and became stunned, allowing Diablos to get a feint on me, and I lose the insect glaive. So I come back with the lance. Once again I should have just grabbed the hammer. Not much longer, I feint and lose another weapon. So I finally bring out the hammer, and I am able to defeat Diablos. The first Wyverian then tells us how we can find Zora Magdaros, and we counsel with the team about a plan to stop Zora Magdaros. I then made the Defender's Longsword, Charge Blade, and I had also made the Switch Axe, Hunting Horn, and Heavy Bowgun off screen earlier. Oops. With all of the weapons left in my arsenal, it was time to stop Zora Magdaros once and for all. While smashing the magma cores on its back, I end up fainting to one of the explosions of the magma cores and lose the hammer. I bring out the hunting horn, and Nergigante shows itself. Despite my poor hunting horn skills, I somehow managed to repel Nergigante without fainting. We then moved to the fortress and unleashed all of the cannons, ballistas, and the commander's famous Dragonator. After doing these things for a while, Zora Magdaros flees into the ocean to die. Switch to the heavy bowgun. I go investigate the wild waste and find a Poki, and you've guessed it, it needs to die. Unfortunately, my skills with the heavy bowgun is also slacking, so I end up fainting. I bring out the switch axe and finish it off. I make some high rank bone beta armor. I make some more high rank armor. I then hunt Anjanath in the wild spire waste. Anjanath this time around isn't too bad. I use the switch axe and have the vitality mantle, which helped me make the fight easier. Eventually Anjanath goes down. Pink Wraithen is the entry boss for rank 7. Pink Wraithen is very annoying to fight as it's a more aggressive Wraithen. It also didn't help that I didn't have antidotes with me. She stuns me from continuously swinging her head upwards at me and then hits me with a fireball as I'm about to recover from the stun, causing me to faint. I tried using the longsword. I do pretty good for a bit, but eventually faint to her. I am then able to kill her with the charge blade. So now I'm essentially down to one weapon, since I only really know how to use the charge blade. I decide to make some Anjanath armor to use the skill artillery. I then head to the Elder's Recess to do some exploring and collect traces of Nergigante. While exploring, I discovered Dodogama, Lavasioth, and Uragon. After collecting the traces of Nergigante, it was time to fight him. This ends up being one of the hardest parts of this whole challenge. To be fair, I only really had the charge blade and then a hunting horn that I never bothered to learn. The hardest thing about Nergigante is surviving its attacks. It's a big emphasis on dodging, but even then, there would be attacks that were extremely hard to avoid. My first attempt against him goes pretty smooth until a very unfortunate series of events. I break his second horn, which is great and all, but I mess up and get carried in the momentum of attacking and go into axe mode. Now, if you're not familiar with the charge blade, if you go into axe mode, you essentially move slower, along with there being more of a delay time after attacking, thus allowing Nergi to use his head slam combo where he slams his head to the ground and shoots needles, which does a lot of damage. The other issue I encountered though was that for whatever reason my invincible dodge was not working properly and my character would just do a normal dodge, which causes me to faint. I then grab my last weapon, the hunting horn, and yeah, that didn't go very far. I do manage to stun him, but not knowing how to use the songs or the timing, it was essentially a bigger hammer. Not much longer, energy causes me to faint and ends my first run. Yay! Well, at least I can regain the weapons I lost from Pink Wraithen. So yeah, I fight Pink Wraithen again, and this time I don't lose any weapons. So here's a quick montage of me trying to beat Nergi and failing. Yeah, thankfully on the 4th run, I have essentially an Ultra Instinct moment, which in the real world is known as the flow state. And the definition of it is a psychological term in which a person's sense of time, the ego, and thoughts disappear and you become completely absorbed into your task. So if you ever have those feelings of the moments of where you're just in tune with whatever you're doing and everything seems to be a blur, yeah, you in the flow state. And that's exactly what happens in this run. And I'm able to beat Nergigante without losing any weapons. Finally! We can finally progress! After a lot of grinding, I make the Dragon King eye patch and the Dober Beta chest armor. I then investigate the Wild Spiral Waste and the Ancient Forest, tracking the other Elder Dragons. I then make some of Nergigante's armor. Valhazak is the next Elder Dragon I take on, and I honestly love this monster and wish its weapons got more love. Thanks to the stronger armor, I'm able to take hits from Valhazak. Overall, he's pretty easy to beat. I then take on Kushala Deora, and Kushala is very annoying with its tornadoes, its black wind that surrounds itself and being in the air a lot, which poison normally is a great way to shut that down, but as you can see, I don't got time for that. Luckily, I'm able to beat it without fainting. Teostra is up next. Teostra isn't too hard, but you do primarily fight it in this small arena and it's hard to avoid some of its attacks. I do a good amount of damage to it, but as I'm trying to clear myself of the Blast Blight, I happen to be right where he starts his Fire Breath and faint. I switch to the Charge Blade and eventually kill it. Finally, it was time to fight Xeno'jiiva. The first phase of Xeno'jiiva is pretty easy. I ran around the area, luring it to the crystal pillars to drop them onto it, and then commence to attack it. Second phase, things start to get a bit more crazy. Part of the ground became lava-like, and he started to be more aggressive with charging at me, shooting his laser beams, getting in the air, shooting laser beams. Yeah, I kid y'all not. This fight made me very stressed. And the pressure, especially since I only had the Charge Blade, the Longsword, and the Hunting Horn left. So essentially 2 weapons I know how to use, and then of course the joke weapon that I don't even bother trying to learn. Despite the pressure and the stress of this fight, I'm able to conquer Xeno'jiiva and thus completing this challenge. If y'all want to see more, be sure to subscribe and leave a like. If you love Monster Hunter Nuzlocke, check out my Sunbreak Nuzlocke. If you want to see more Nuzlocke, check out my Pokemon Infinite Fusion Nuzlocke. There's a good amount of Monster Hunter references in there. Anyways, I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.